Let's go Dolphins! The Miami Dolphins are about to unleash the biggest quarterback overhaul we've seen in years, and I'm not exaggerating. What's happening behind the scenes could change the entire trajectory of this franchise, and it's not just about a possible trade involving Tua Tagovailoa. No. There's a high-stakes game unfolding, with names like Kirk Cousins being mentioned, and let me tell you, some of the decisions being discussed right now could shock even the most loyal Dolphins fans. We're talking about changes at the quarterback position that could either lead this team to the Super Bowl or drag us into yet another rebuild. And it all comes down to one thing. The Dolphins aren't going to wait any longer. I have all the details here for you. No beating around the bush. No filter. But before I explain everything, hit the like button if you're a true Miami Dolphins fan and ready to see this team finally take control of its future. And I want to know your opinions in the comments. Should the Dolphins bet everything on a veteran quarterback like Kirk Cousins, or is it time to trust the young players and rebuild the right way? Let's flood the comments section with this. Go Dolphins! My heart bleeds aqua and orange. Okay, let's go, because what I have to say might completely change how you see this offseason. We have an evolving storm in South Florida centered around one name, Tua Tagovailoa. According to Adam Schefter, the Miami Dolphins are actively exploring trade options for Tua, and they're even willing to absorb a portion of his contract to get it done. That's not just rumors swirling anymore. That's ESPN-level confirmation. Miami gave Tua a 4-year extension worth $212.1 million, and they're still on the hook for $54 million in 2026 alone. On top of that, an additional $3 million from his 2027 salary locks in if he's still on the roster by March 15th. So the Dolphins are staring down a cap situation that could trigger a record-breaking $99 million dead cap hit if they just cut him. Let that sink in. That would be the largest dead cap charge in NFL history. So what does that tell you? They are seriously looking for a way out. And you know what? I'm hearing more and more from people close to the situation that this regime, Mike McDaniel, Chris Greer, even Stephen Ross, are not sold on Tua as the guy going forward. That door, once open for him to maybe stay and compete, is almost shut. The chance of him remaining on this roster by the start of the 2026 season? We're talking 5%, maybe 10% if we're being generous. So what's the move? Enter Kirk Cousins. Yes, you heard that right. Veteran quarterback Kirk Cousins is expected to be released by the Atlanta Falcons before the new league year begins in March. That means he'll hit the market as a free agent, and the Dolphins wouldn't have to give up any draft capital to sign him. Just money. And let's be real, Cousins isn't the future of this franchise, but could he be the bridge? Could he be the stabilizer that helps this team stay competitive while the front office fixes the cap and builds for 2027? Let's break it down. Cousins restructured his contract with Atlanta, pushing a huge $32.9 million chunk into his 2027 salary, which would become fully guaranteed if he stays past March. That's why Atlanta is likely to cut bait now, taking on a $10.4 million dead cap hit but avoiding that massive future burden. So yeah, Cousins is about to be on the market. Now the question is, should Miami go after him? Let me be clear. It all depends on the price. And that's the common thread you're going to hear all offseason when we talk quarterbacks. For the right price. The Dolphins simply cannot afford to throw $25 million at a quarterback right now. They can't even toss $20 million. Maybe, you give a guy like Cousins something low, short-term, incentive-heavy. Because don't forget, he's already getting paid by the Falcons. He doesn't need a big payday to keep playing. And he's not repped by athletes first. So maybe we're not talking about some agent trying to squeeze every dollar out of a desperate team. Maybe. But if the Dolphins give Cousins starter money, then let's be real, it's not a competition. It's a coronation. And we've seen that play out before. Remember Zach Wilson getting $6 million guaranteed while Quinn Ewers was getting barely any snaps in training camp? Yeah, we see through that. Say it's a competition all you want, but we know how it goes when the money talks. And speaking of Quinn Ewers, what's the real plan here? If the Dolphins are truly rebuilding, letting the cap heal as they say, they can't just plug the hole with a big money vet. That's why names like Anthony Richardson, Malik Willis, or Will Levis make more sense in that picture. Young quarterbacks, team-controlled contracts, real competition. Build your foundation, and if they pan out, great. If they don't, you draft your guy in 2027 with a clearer cap and stronger roster core. That's what smart teams do. Look at Washington and New England, both in the Super Bowl and both with strong cap positions. They built through the draft. They didn't hand out massive contracts to fix problems temporarily. Same with the Chargers, Broncos, Steelers, all playoff teams, all with real financial flexibility. Miami? Not so much. So here's the dilemma. Is Kirk Cousins worth being a bridge quarterback for the right price? Is that the move while you retool and position yourself for the future? Or is it better to just go full youth movement, let Ewers compete with another young QB, and tank, let's call it what it is, for 2027? There's no perfect answer, but one thing is clear. The Dolphins are making moves. Tua's days look numbered, and it's not just whispers anymore. It's money, it's coaching decisions, it's ownership directives, and it's heading toward a major offseason shakeup, one that could define the next 5 years of Dolphins football. Because here's where it gets even more layered. If the Dolphins decide to bring in Kirk Cousins, you have to consider what kind of message that sends to the locker room. Is it a sign that this team still believes it's one piece away from contention? Or is it a smokescreen move to stay relevant while secretly planning for a full-on rebuild in the background? Because the truth is, you don't bring in a 37, soon-to-be 38-year-old quarterback to compete. You bring in Cousins because you either believe he can manage the offense at a high level or you don't trust your current crop of QBs enough to go into battle with them. And this brings us to the hidden layer beneath all of this, Quinn Ewers. There were moments in training camp where people around the team were saying he looked like the better quarterback. He was sharper, more poised, yet he got almost no reps, none. It was the Zach Wilson show simply because of the guaranteed contract. That's what happens when the front office lets money dictate depth charts. So if the Dolphins go out and give Kirk Cousins even mid-tier starter money, don't buy into the competition narrative. It won't be a competition. It'll be his job unless he outright implodes. And if that happens, then what? Another wasted year? Now, I want you to imagine this. The Dolphins go with Cousins for a year. They finish 6-11. The offense is decent but not explosive. The defense struggles to stay healthy. And in the end, you're sitting with a middling draft pick and still no real answer at quarterback for the future. Is that the path we want to take? Is that how you build a Super Bowl roster? This is why the Anthony Richardson and Will Levis conversations are more intriguing. These guys aren't proven, no, but they're young, cheap, and they fit into a long-term plan. If the front office truly wants to let the cap breathe, the smart play is not to add another veteran contract. It's to clear space, get aggressive in the draft, and finally hit on a quarterback that you develop yourself. Because let's not kid ourselves, we've seen the teams that win in today's NFL. They have rookie contract quarterbacks or elite veterans who took discounts to win. Miami is currently in neither of those positions. But let's entertain the hypothetical that Kirk Cousins does come to Miami. What version are we getting? The one who threw for 4,000 plus yards and 30 touchdowns? Or the one who faded in clutch moments, made costly turnovers, and couldn't get his team over the playoff hump? Because those latter issues don't go away with age. They get worse. And if he's just here to be a bridge, why not use a bridge that can grow into a long-term asset? Because Cousins isn't going to be part of this team in 2027. That much we know. So is he really the best short-term answer? And let's not forget about the rest of the roster. We've got questions on the O-line. Patrick Paul and Aaron Brewer are in the mix. But Jonah Williams? That's still unclear. We need 2 more starters on that front. What about the defensive line? What happens with Bradley Chubb? Who are your edge rushers outside of Chop? You've got holes everywhere. Trenches, linebacker, safety, even wide receiver depth. That's why overpaying for a quarterback right now doesn't make logical sense. It's not just about who lines up under center. It's about having the structure in place around him to win. That's what we're missing. This team doesn't need a flashy free agent quarterback. It needs direction. It needs stability. It needs a clear, long-term vision that matches up with the cap strategy and the draft blueprint. If you can get Cousins on a discount, fine, maybe. But if not, walk away. Take the pain now to build a better tomorrow. Let the cap breathe. Let the roster mature. And then go big in 2027 with a quarterback you can develop, not rent. One last thing to consider, and this is key. The Dolphins have made it clear they want to build a foundation, not just patchwork. That means drafting well, getting younger, and hitting on role players who can grow into stars. Look at the model franchises in the league. Philadelphia, Kansas City, San Francisco. They didn't buy their way into contention. They drafted their way in. That's the blueprint Miami has to follow. And that blueprint doesn't start with Kirk Cousins. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you see it differently. So hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to check out the videos on screen for more breakdowns, roster updates, and off-season targets. Let's ride this roller coaster together, Dolphins fans, because one thing's for sure, this offseason is about to define the future of the Miami Dolphins. And now I want to hear from you. Should Miami go after Kirk Cousins even if it means risking cap flexibility? Or is it finally time to commit to a full rebuild and let the young guys take the wheel? Drop your thoughts below. Go Dolphins!